So I don't know if it's a long-winded answer to your question, but that's how I ended up in DC. And by 2019, 20, I was like, hey, I'm always interested in talking to people to learn more about Pakistan, and why not just do a podcast, because I'm having those conversations in any case.
Where were you having those conversations? Like just in person, online?
Just in person or on the phone when you would engage with people for a client, right? कि अगर एक client पूछ रहा है कि जी हम, and this is a true story and it's been years so I can talk about it, so I won't name the client, but एक client आया हमारे पास, वो कहता है कि जी हमें जो है पाकिस्तान में गैस टर्मिनल लगाना है, ठीक है, और ये 2018 से पहले की बात है, और हमारे आप असेसमेंट दे, हमें बताए कि मईशत किस तरफ जा रही है, और डिफॉल्ट होगा कि नहीं होगा, IMF से पैसे आएंगे नहीं आएंगे, पावर सेक्टर की सिचुएशन क्या है, रिफॉर्म्स आउटलुक क्या है, वगैरह वगैरह, राइट? दे वांटेड टू डू अ रिस्क एनालिसिस. So when you do that, like I'm sitting in Washington, मैं पाकिस्तान जाता रहता था for work. So either you meet people in person when you're in Pakistan, or you pick up the phone and you call a few people and ask them कि यार मतलब I've read this policy, I'm sort of seeing what the government is saying, help me understand what they're actually doing. And then that would go into the analysis, right? So that was basically a podcast conversation focused on a client. And I was like, I'm already doing that. Why not talk to these smart people to let more people understand that, there is a difference between the rhetoric that we hear in the public domain and the actual reality, and maybe shine a light on the reality a bit more.
Yeah, there was something you mentioned in the panel last year, which I found to be like a good like tagline or a good branding identity, where you said that you wanted to take people on a journey of learning, is the way you said it. So now obviously a podcast, this ties into the angle where you're having the conversation, and your analysis and conclusions are evolving as a result of those. What were you seeing on the side of the public where you said, where this understanding, this sort of exposure is clearly missing here, so they will need what the podcast will produce, right? Because if everybody knows, there was a gap that you identified in understanding, knowledge, approach to arguments, whatever it may be. What was that, and where did you see it most? Was it just Twitter ignorance?
It was Twitter ignorance. It was ignorance in conversations I would have. Like, as I said, मेरा Paulians का group है, right?
Yeah.
अब वो हम बड़े हुए हैं साथ. They're well educated people. अब उनसे भी जब बात होती थी, तो जो assessment आती थी या जो complaint आती थी कि why are things not working the way they should be, उसका जब diagnosis करने हम बैठते थे, तो I would find that their knowledge and understanding of the situation was very thin, if not misinformed. Right, which was concerning to me, because मैं अमेरिका में बैठा हूँ, and I'm like, यार तुम लोग तो फिर भी पाकिस्तान में हो, you live and breathe and sort of engage with this situation every day. How come is it that you don't understand? You're like the cream of the crop from what I see. ठीक है, हमने O levels किया है पाकिस्तान से, St. Paul से, मतलब that's one of the best educations you could get as a citizen of Karachi, right? As a middle class sort of, because Paul's is still not that expensive of a school,
right?
But it provides very high quality education. So that was sort of one way. The other was obviously with family and friends and others that you would talk to within and outside Pakistan. Then emerging data started coming out. So for example, American Pakistan Foundation ने 2 साल पहले या 2.5 साल पहले research की थी on how the diaspora, Pakistani diaspora जो है, वो information पाकिस्तान के बारे में कैसे consume करता है. So the number one sort of mode of ingestion of communication or news for the diaspora, according to this survey, and it was a pretty robust survey. It wasn't 30,000 people, but it was enough of a good sample size, was WhatsApp. Which is like, like like अगर आप बाहर बैठ के WhatsApp से पाकिस्तान के बारे में न्यूज़ कंज्यूम कर रहे हैं, या कहीं भी बैठ के पाकिस्तान में बैठ के भी, तो बड़ा मसला है, right? And so that was the thing. And then you saw, like I gave you the gas example, right? The gas example is a good one in the sense at that time, that when I would talk to experts about what was wrong, what needed to be done, etc., you would get very good information. And then you turned on the TV at that same time, and the conversation was on TV के इन्होंने तो कतरी से पैसे लिए हैं और करप्शन की, और इतनी मेगा करप्शन की है कि आप तो अगर पता चलेगा तो आप तो रोंगटे खड़े हो जाएंगे.
No specifics.
The no specifics. And I was like, that's basically not true. Because I would ask, like, the reason I stumbled into this was like, I would ask the experts then, right, privately, yeah, this is the headline. My client is worried about this. And they want to be sure that if they invest in Pakistan, they don't end up on the wrong side of FCRA, which is the Foreign Corrupt Regulations Act, or FCPA. You know, UK and US and Japan, others have very strong anti-corruption laws, right? They have to
Yeah,
abide
yeah.
by that. तो दैट्स व्हाई दे वर कंसर्न्ड अबाउट द हेडलाइंस. एंड जब मैं बैठता था प्राइवेट में लोगों से, तो वो कहते थे ऐसी तो कोई बात ही नहीं है, द इश्यूज आर एक्स वाई जी, देयर मोर मार्केट ओरिएंटेड इश्यूज एंड करप्शन ओरिएंटेड इश्यूज. So that's not a risk in the Pakistani context, right? And I was like, then क्यों, मतलब मेन स्ट्रीम कॉन्वर्जेशन में ये बात क्यों नहीं लोगों को बताई जा रही?
Yeah.
Right? And that was basically the thing, was that, okay, if I'm doing that already and I myself am learning these things, why not take everybody else who
Did you
maybe